was 24 years old, fresh out of college, and proud of my first house. The basement was enormous. The previous owners had partitioned it into strange little rooms using cheap plywood and exposed framing. Storage here, laundry there, a workshop nook, and at the very back, a weird dead-end space that gave me bad vibes from day one. You couldn't see across the basement from any single angle. That maze-like quality felt cool during the walk-through. Later, I would understand why that design was a nightmare. It was a Tuesday night, laundry night, the only time I voluntarily went down there. I pushed open the basement door and noticed the lights were already on. Weird. But I figured I had just forgotten to turn them off. The bulbs were that sickly yellow color, dim even when they worked. I started down the stairs, laundry basket on my hip. That is when everything went sideways faster than I could process. Something moved in the corner of my eye, near the far wall, behind a folding table. I turned my head. A man, crouching, filthy, staring right through me. My brain refused to register what I was seeing. I stood frozen, basket slipping from my fingers, watching a stranger who was watching me back with something worse than surprise in his eyes. Then he stood up and ran, not toward me, deeper into the partitioned maze. That motion broke my paralysis. I started backing toward the stairs, but I had wasted too much time. Before I reached the first step, every light in the basement went black. I had never been down there in complete darkness. I did not know it could be that dark. Not dark like night, dark like being buried. I kept moving toward where I thought the stairs were. Tripped, fell hard, got up completely turned around. My phone was upstairs on the kitchen counter. No flashlight, no way to call for help. I started screaming, loud, crazy, hoping to scare him off. But then I heard screaming back at me from the other side of the basement. He was doing the same thing, trying to sound unhinged, and his voice was way more terrifying than mine. He legitimately sounded like someone who had killed before. We both went silent at the same moment. Then I heard movement, scratching, footsteps, getting closer, and the worst thought hit me like ice water. Somehow this man knew my basement better than I did. He was not stumbling around blind. I felt my way forward by memory and touch, breathing behind me. Closer now. I could hear him exhaling. Then my fingers found the wooden base of the staircase. I grabbed the railing and launched upward. Something clamped around my ankle on the second step. I lost my grip. My head cracked against the railing. I tumbled all the way back down to the concrete floor. In the dark, I felt hands dragging me away from the stairs. Strength that did not feel human. I kicked, thrashed, connected with something. A face, a shoulder, and twisted free. I ran back to the stairs, found them in the blackness, and burst through the basement door upstairs, slamming it behind me. The door had no lock. I threw my back against it and pressed. Footsteps pounded up those stairs, then a crash that nearly sent me flying across the kitchen. He hit the door again. Again. I pulled off my socks for better grip and pushed with everything I had. Somehow, impossibly, the door held. The crashing stopped. Footsteps retreated back downstairs. I grabbed my phone, called 911, and held that door until red and blue lights flooded my windows. The police searched the basement. The intruder was gone. One window had been pried open from outside. The officer looked at me and said something I will never forget. He said, "He was not trying to rob you. He was living down there." The lights were not on by accident that night. He knew where the switch was because he had used it before. How many nights had I been down there alone while someone hid in the back rooms? I moved out 4 months later, and to this day, I am certain of one thing. That man was ready to kill me. If I had fallen 1 second slower, he might have. My parents were driving out of state for a wedding. My older sister was supposed to stay with me. Last minute, she texted that she had a party and was not coming. I did not tell my parents, partly because I did not want them stressed, partly because I did not want a babysitter. The house sat in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Families everywhere. I played Halo for 6 hours straight. Bliss. Then just after midnight, I heard a noise from the backyard. Tapping. Like something hitting the siding. Tree branch, I figured. But then the tapping moved. Slowly. Deliberately. Along the side of the house. That is when I muted the TV. Whatever was making that sound was alive. I sat frozen. Listening. Nothing. After a minute, I convinced myself it was an animal and turned the volume back up. 20 minutes later, a new sound. Tapping again. But this time it was not coming from outside. It was coming from below me. The basement. The living room sat directly over an unfinished basement with small windows. Perfect for a raccoon or stray cat. I muted the TV again. This time I stood up. Walked to the basement door, opened it, stared down into blackness. The tapping was louder now, every few seconds, consistent, intentional. I do not know why I did this, but I called out, "Hello!" The tapping stopped instantly. Not an animal. An animal does not react to your voice like that. The light switch was at the bottom of the stairs. No chance I was going down there. So I cracked the door, pointed my phone into the dark with the flash on, closed my eyes, and recorded a 10-second video. Then I slammed the door, locked it, took a breath, opened the footage. It took me 1 second to see the person standing under the basement window, inside, looking up. I screamed, dropped my phone, ran to my bedroom, locked the door. Called my dad, who called the police while I hyperventilated on the line. Then I heard it. Banging on the basement door from the inside. Someone was trying to break into the finished part of the house. 5 or 6 hits. Then silence. Then police lights. They searched the basement. The intruder had escaped through a window. But they found something else. The knife rack in the small kitchenette area was missing its biggest blade. A kitchen knife. Gone. The same size as the one I had used to chop vegetables 2 nights earlier. That was almost 20 years ago. I have never found the old phone with that video. It is probably buried in a box somewhere in my parents' attic. If I ever find it, if it still turns on, I will release the footage. But here is what keeps me up some nights. What would have happened if I had not recorded that video? Would the police have believed me? Or would I have just been the kid who heard things in the dark? Some basements are not haunted. They are just occupied. This happened when I was 16, 4 years ago now. I grew up in this big suburban house that my parents bought before I was born. It is one of those places that looks completely normal from the outside, but has all these weird quirks once you are inside. The biggest quirk by far is the basement. It is easily the largest room in the house. My parents finished it years ago and turned it into a casual hangout space. Sectional couch, decent TV, a couple of storage rooms in the back. You would think a space like that would get a lot of use. But my parents prefer the living room upstairs. So basically, the basement is mine. The other thing you need to know about is my cat. His name is Rocky. He is one of those annoyingly friendly cats that constantly needs attention. Because of that, my parents put him in the basement every night before they go to sleep. That way, he does not bother them. Now here is where things get a little sketchy. The basement has this interior door that connects directly to the garage. It is technically supposed to be a convenience thing for bringing in groceries. But for me, it was a convenience thing for sneaking people in. It was a Friday night when this went down. I remember that specifically because I had invited a girl over. Not something I would do on a school night. I also remember assuming Rocky was already down there. It was past the time when my parents usually put him in the basement, so I figured he was asleep somewhere in the back storage rooms. That is why I did not freak out when I heard a noise from one of those rooms. It was this faint rustling sound, like something moving around in boxes. To be honest, I felt justified in keeping my cool. It sounded exactly like what an energetic cat might do. The girl obviously tensed up a little, but I explained that it was just my cat. We went back to pretending to watch whatever was on the TV, but the noises kept happening, not constantly. Every few minutes there would be another rustle or a soft thud. Each time she would give me a worried look. Each time I assured her that Rocky was just an active cat who liked to climb on things. Which was true. He did like to climb on things. I was still completely calm, right up until I heard scratching coming from the door at the top of the basement stairs, the door that led to the main part of the house. I instantly knew what I was hearing. It was Rocky scratching at the door to get into the basement. That meant he was not already down there with us, which also meant that whatever noises I had been hearing for the past half hour were not him. I did not say anything right away, partly because I did not want to scare the girl, partly because I did not fully believe what I was hearing. Maybe it was a different cat. Maybe I was wrong. But before I could react, the girl started screaming like she was being stabbed. I whipped my head around. She was pointing behind me, toward the back of the basement. I turned my head a little further, and I literally froze in fear. There was a foam football rolling across the floor. It had clearly just been thrown out of the storage room. Someone was in there. I did not see anyone. The back of the basement was too dark, but there was no other explanation. Someone had been back there the whole time, listening to us, watching us. Without thinking, I grabbed her arm and practically dragged her up the stairs. As soon as we made it to the top, I slammed the door behind us. I made sure Rocky did not get down there. Things got really chaotic after that. She was crying. I was shaking. Until that moment, I did not even know I could get that scared. My parents eventually realized what was going on. They called the police. Officers showed up a few minutes later. I stood on the back deck and watched the garage the entire time. I wanted to make sure the intruder did not slip out through that interior door. Here's where things got weird, though. The police searched the entire basement, every storage room, every corner. They also checked the garage. They did not find anyone. There were no signs of forced entry. All the basement windows were locked from the inside. One of the officers suggested that the intruder must have slipped out through the garage before they arrived. But I know that is not possible. I was watching that garage door the entire time. I would have seen anyone leave. After searching the house, there was nothing else the police could do. They filed a report. They left. My parents thought the intruder had slipped away without me realizing it. I could tell they were upset. My dad especially. But I do not care what they think. I am 100% certain that no one escaped through the garage. There is only one path from the garage to the outdoors, and I had my eyes on it the entire time. My family never got a resolution to any of this. I still have no explanation for what happened that night. But here is the question that still bothers me. If the intruder did not escape through the garage, and all the windows were locked from the inside, and the police found no one in the basement, then where did he go? The only answer I can come up with is that he was never there to begin with. But that does not make sense either, because the football moved. The girl saw something. I felt something. Some basements do not have intruders. Some basements have something else entirely.